Hello, everyone. Welcome to JMac Investing. My name is Jason. Thanks for tuning in to another video. Today, we're going to take a look at Hyliion Holdings. They have recently announced the acquisition of a revolutionary hydrogen and fuel agnostic generator. They have acquired this from GE. And just high level here, it's a generator that is expected to be 20% more efficient than today's leading generators, and it's achieved by 3D printing of thermal components, capabilities of operating on 20 different fuels, which I think is kind of unheard of. So that being said, today, very excited to have Thomas Healy, the CEO of Hyliion, on to discuss this and get some insights into this acquisition, what it means for Hyliion in the future, and maybe just, maybe a few things that you might be wondering about this acquisition. How you doing, Thomas?
Good to see you again, JMac. Thanks for having us on, and looking forward to, as you said, sharing a little bit more about this Karno technology. We're extremely excited about it.
Congratulations on the acquisition here. It came out of nowhere, really, honestly. I'm sure a lot of people were, taking it by surprise here. It seems like some amazing technology. How long has this been on your radar as far as knowing about it, and then the process of acquiring it? How long has that been going on?
So it definitely came out of nowhere from the public side, but within Hyliion, this has actually been something that has been long in the works. And to give you kind of the background and story of it, so I'd say it was 1 to 2 years ago, GE actually reached out to Hyliion and said, "Hey, we've got this skunkworks technology that we're working on in-house. We haven't told anyone about it, but we want to share it with you to see if it would be of interest to integrate it into the Hyliion powertrain." And we said, "Sure, absolutely, let's take a look." So as you mentioned, it was this fuel agnostic generator, could run on different fuels, had a really high efficiency, and we dove in and we thought, yeah, this has a lot of promise. So we've actually been working with GE on developing this technology for a while now, and we, as we were going through the process of seeing like the test results and how it was performing, it kind of changed our mindset to, well, maybe we actually want to own this and bring it into Hyliion and make it part of our product portfolio. And so we approached GE and asked if we could acquire it, and we were able to, and that's what we announced a couple of days ago. Was the planned acquisition here. So been in the works for a while, but something that we're pretty excited about.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, from your perspective, give me some high level bullet points of like why you went after this technology and why you think it will benefit Hyliion, going forward.
Sure. So, for anyone who's new to the Hyliion story, I'll just start at the high level. So we're a company focused on electrifying the commercial vehicle space, the big semi trucks you see going down the highway. And we see that space breaking into kind of two different buckets. One is BEV plug-in vehicles, and the other are vehicles that are going to travel long distances, which is most of trucking, which really need an electric range extender powertrain. And when you think about that space, it's a question of how do you get electricity as efficiently as possible, right? Most people think of a electric vehicle as, hey, how do I get better and better batteries? Well, that's kind of what you need if you're going to be recharging off the grid. But when you have a range extender vehicle, more the dilemma is how do I produce electricity more and more efficiently on board the vehicle? And so what this Karno generator, which you can kind of refer to it as a power plant, the power plant on board the truck, the benefit it brings forward is it can take various fuel sources in, and it's going to convert that fuel into electricity. But not only can it operate on various fuels, it also does it at a much higher efficiency, as you were saying. And we're seeing, expecting that it's going to be in upwards of about 20% more efficient than a conventional generator today, which that means it's going to reduce operating costs for fleets and make it easier for them to operate the trucks they are driving down the roads.
So, those unfamiliar with Hyliion, one of the things that intrigued me about the company was early on learning about the potential of being fuel agnostic. That was in your vision as a company, very very early on, and so to see this kind of come to fruition after doing some research on it, and I think you were looking at hydrogen and CNG, RNG, obviously, early on, and then this opens up 20 new fuel potential sources. Well, it would be 18 more, I guess, because the two would be included. So was that even something you ever considered, all these other fuel sources?
Yeah, I think the other fuel sources are a little bit newer to the thought process. So the way we've kind of viewed it is there's been a push for decades, frankly, of the euphoria fuel solution for trucking is hydrogen. And I understand that, and as a company, we understand that, and we believe that that can be true as well. But there are so many things that still need to take place till we get to a hydrogen-based future, and that's where our whole philosophy as a company is: let's start with natural gas today, renewable natural gas. It's available, it's prominent. There's stations out there. It's low cost. Like it checks all the boxes of a good fuel. And so, why don't we start with renewable natural gas today, and then when the hydrogen infrastructure and costs and all that take place and come down, then that's when it makes sense to actually jump to hydrogen. And so when we initially thought about fuel agnostic, we were kind of thinking, well, it's this gap of going from natural gas to hydrogen. What's interesting is, as you mentioned, this technology brings forward a lot of other fuels. It can bring forward propane. It can bring forward ammonia. Even it can even run on jet fuel. Right? It's like it can take very a wide brand of fuels, pull them in, and actually use that to produce electricity. And so we kind of led in the last in the presentation you were referring to with saying how the electric grid has been in a constant evolution for the last 50 years. But even still, we're nowhere near euphoria. Still, only 20% of our fuel or our electricity utilized today comes from alternative renewable fuel sources like wind and solar or hydro. And so, from that standpoint, 80% is still coming from other places. So, there's still a long transition to take place in the electric grid. And the same thing is going to happen in semi trucks. It's going to be a long transition. And now, what we're going to be positioned to be able to do is say, here is a truck that is truly future proof to whatever fuel sources are going to be the fuel of choice as we go forward.
So, and I did want to caveat with the audience, that this is still being developed, something that you're looking to add on to your fleets in the future as it's developed and commercialized. But I did want to get down to, me, I'm a practical guy, simple guy, and I like to think about things from that practical level. And what are your thoughts on how it will be implemented into trucks? And of course, you're going to hammer all this out, once you get ready to commercialize it. But with all these potential different fuel sources, do you envision maybe having a couple different fuel tanks on a truck, things of that nature? How could this be different than your initial way of envisioning fuel agnostic trucks?
So you hit the nail on the head. The question is really, how do you bring the various fuels or different fuels on board the vehicle? Because a diesel tank is very different than a natural gas tank, right? If it's a liquid fuel versus a gaseous fuel. So that is still the area of the vehicle that would need to change based on what fuel source. But the actual generator itself can run on the various fuels. So there's different ways of approaching it. In the beginning, I envision that fleets are going to want this solution, but they're going to want it and run it on natural gas, and then you just use conventional natural gas storage tanks. We think the fleets will want the hydrogen capabilities, which there are tank suppliers out there that are making hydrogen tanks, so we could put those on the vehicle. We are also looking at, can you do, independent tanks? So you'd have a couple that would be natural gas, couple that would be hydrogen, and operate that on the same vehicle. Or one thing that I think is really interesting and neat is, can we get to a place where you could actually just mix the fuels? So you can mix natural gas and hydrogen, right? There's no problem there. And one of the cool things with this generator is it can run on a mixture. So you could have 50% hydrogen, 50% natural gas, and it's going to run just fine. And so, that's something that there are some hurdles there. Nat gas is usually stored at a lower pressure than hydrogen's being proposed. So there are things to still work through. But you hit the nail on the head. It's how do you actually store the fuels, and that's what will be the difference between what fuel you're going to be running on.
Right. So I wanted to just kind of talk about, because I've seen the images of it and things, but and I know this could change over time as it's developed. Even the way it looks right now could change, but at present, how much does this generator weigh? And the size and scope of it at current.
We're still in the development phase of the generator, so we haven't come out with exact weights and size of it, but we are targeting lighter and smaller, right? And that's the goal of be lighter and smaller than current based solutions. So if you can check the box of lighter, smaller, more efficient, and fuel agnostic, I mean, you're kind of it sounds like a slam dunk solution, right? So that's what we're going for. We're in the phase right now where in the next couple of quarters, we're going to have this on a vehicle with the Hypertruck powertrain and have it out on the roads and running. And then what we had mentioned was our plan for actually bringing this to market is we're going to launch the ERX first. This does not impact the development timing and scheduling of the ERX. We're still on track for late 23, bringing that to market and start a production. And then a few years after the launch of the ERX, we envision bringing forward the Hypertruck Karno. So, when you think about our roadmap, and I know you know this, JMac, but others viewing might not be familiar with it, we kind of laid out this 3-stage approach. First is a natural gas range extender vehicle using an ICE engine. The next one is the fuel agnostic, and then the last one is the fuel cell. And so this is us kind of explaining more of that middle bucket of a fuel agnostic, but we'll still have the range extender ERX for only natural gas operations. That'll still be an available product, as well as the Hypertruck Karno. So we really see this as a way of expanding our product portfolio and being able to offer fleets more flexibility, and also with the goal of being able to reduce their operating costs.
Right on. Yeah, this is big time, big news, because it's going to expand your footprint as a company. Reading over the details and listening to the announcement, it seems like you guys are the team that's developed this technology from GE is going to come on board, and they're going to be Hyliion employees. Correct me on anything I say that isn't accurate. And then you guys are going to acquire the facility where it has been developed at in Ohio, and that'll be branded Hyliion, right? Is that all accurate?
Yeah. So I think it was just to add some color to it. So extremely talented group of engineers that have developed this solution. Individuals that have a lot of knowledge in like jet engines, aerospace. That's a huge part of GE's business, as well as individuals who have a lot of knowledge on additive manufacturing and 3D printing. As you had mentioned in the lead in here, one of the ways we obtain such a high efficiency with this generator is rethinking the way it's manufactured. So some of the components that are in the generator are actually made on 3D printers, metal 3D printers, which, if you think about it, an engineer, right? Engineers are usually constrained by, well, how can I actually manufacture this? The cool thing with 3D printing is you're no longer constrained by that. You can manufacture anything with 3D printing. And so that allowed this brilliant group to really rethink how they are able to design and engineer the generator. And so they're going to be joining us as employees. And then we're taking over the ownership of the intellectual property around the generator. And then we've set up a transition agreement with GE where, to start, we're going to be keeping these individuals right in the same facility as where they initially invented this thing up in Ohio. So we've got smooth transition in place, and looking forward to have them join the already brilliant group of engineers we've got working on the powertrain. This will be a group that's going to be focused on the actual generator.
Bravo! It's great. It's like I said, it's pretty cool to see. Basically, this will be a new division of Hyliion, right? So your footprint is expanding here, and maybe once you get that up and running and get Hyliion branding on it, maybe you can get out there and go check out the plant and see what. I know it's a lot of proprietary information, but maybe we could set something up and go check it out in person.
Absolutely. We held our promise on letting you take the Hypertruck ERX for a spin. So.
Not doing that in a diesel, huh? Jeez, that's awesome.
And so that's the next one. We'll have to get you out to Ohio and let you experience this firsthand. And I think I know from our conversations you were pretty impressed with the difference going from a diesel to the Hypertruck ERX.
I think as you said, it was an experience, to say the least. Give us your overview on going from a diesel to the Hypertruck. What's it like?
It's a lot of firsts here today. First time riding in a semi, first time driving a semi. Drove the diesel first, which was a very bad first experience. Now driving this, like I said, I'm sitting here, it feels just like a passenger vehicle almost. And with the added benefit of not really having to brake at all. So with that diesel, it's jerking in this corner right here I'm in right now. It's smooth as all get out right here. It's absolutely, like you say, and I've been saying, it's like night and day. And I'm sure fleets are like chomping at the bit to incorporate these as they roll out.
I think you're going to even see another leap forward when you get in the Hypertruck Karno. It's going to be even quieter operations. It's going to be less vibration. So this is just a really innovative and unique generator technology, and one that we see as a great fit for putting it in vehicles. But then the other thing that we mentioned in the call was we can also solve some other problems for the fleets that we're working with. So one of the biggest hurdles we see fleets facing with electric vehicles is, where does the electricity come from? So we could actually deploy these Karno generators as stationary power units to actually charge up other BEV vehicles. And so we solve the problem of where does the electricity come from, not putting a demand on the grid. And then we can also solve the problem of cost, because the cost of producing this electricity through the Karno is actually going to be less than your average grid electricity cost. So it's kind of a win-win solution from that end as well.
And I guess if you made smaller versions, you could get it in commuter vehicles as well. So, but I know, people are going to speculate on what the possibilities of, and the potential of what it could or couldn't be. So that's just something that. So there are working prototypes that you said you're going to put one in a Hypertruck.
Yeah, so the first on-road semi-truck with the Karno technology will be done in the next couple of quarters. At this stage, we've been doing a ton of work with GE, and obviously being led by the GE team on testing and validating different components within the generator. And then, obviously this next phase here is let's put the whole thing together in a truck, where we've put a lot of time and effort towards what's the right sizing of the generator to make sure it's a good fit for the amount of power a semi-truck needs. That's one of the other cool things with it is it's actually scalable from a power standpoint. So we can either increase or decrease the number of linear generators in it, right? So it's and we didn't really go into how the technology works, but just a high level, it basically uses the fuel to produce heat, and then that heat drives a linear generator. And so from a how much power you need standpoint, we can either put more or less linear generators, and then that's going to allow you to optimize the amount of power you need for the vehicle. So we see that there can be other applications as we go forward of where to deploy this. To start though, as hopefully people have seen with the Hyliion business model, it's let's stay focused and let's go execute. And so to start, we're going to get this in the semi truck, and then we'll see where we can take it from there.
Excellent. Well, let's end on this note. Tentative commercialization timelines on this technology. Like I said, I know it's in R&D and you're working on it, but when could you see this being adopted and commercialized?
So ERX, as I mentioned before, is on the same timeline of a late 23 start of production for the internal combustion engine natural gas range extender solution. And then we see this being a few years after that is when we would launch the Hypertruck Karno. So we'll have to go through the normal standard government approvals like CARB, EPA certifications on this. So there's definitely still development to go. We want to make sure it's reliable and going to be able to last the life we expect for really being able to meet the standards that fleets are demanding on us. So still some boxes we're checking on that end and going through normal commercialization processes, but everything we've been seeing thus far is really promising. And we see it as one, reduce the fleet's operating costs, give them a better performing vehicle, and this can open up a lot of opportunities for us going forward.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's good to see that you're staying the course, and as economy and a lot of companies are going through lots of struggles, but you're steadfast and making these decisions. There's been other announcements. I haven't covered a lot of them, but there's other Hypertruck ERX orders that have taken place. The deal that you struck, the partnership with Cummins on the generator that'll be going into the initial ERX. So a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out your day here today to talk about this announcement.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on, and we'll get you up to Ohio at some point here and let you see all that firsthand. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I appreciate it, Thomas. I hope you have a great rest of your day, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.